Hey, welcome to Wednesday's Follow the Light. We're in a devotional where every day we're following the light, Jesus Christ, the light of the world. And as we follow the light one day at a time, He opens up our path. And He wants to illuminate your path. And He's got great plans for you this year. He wants to spark new dreams and new paths and new visions in your life this year. I believe that with all my heart. We're in John chapter 13 because we're going chapter by chapter, one chapter a day through the book of John as we follow Jesus Christ. When you spend time with Jesus, you follow the light, then you become more like Jesus. And light begins to fill you up to overflowing. Well, in John chapter 13, we see that Jesus gathers the disciples for the Last Supper. Now, this is His last chance to really share with the disciples that He's poured His life into for the last 3 years. And He's depending on them to change the world with His power. And He's got one more chance to share with all of them something that will stick with them, that'll stay with them. So what do you think He did? Did He give them a big motivational speech? Did He give them a big pep talk? Did He take out the chalk and start writing on the board all the important principles that He'd taught them? No, He didn't do any of those things. What did He do? He took a basin and a towel and He knelt down and He washed the disciples' feet. And they never forgot that. For you see, in biblical times, whenever they would come in off the streets together for a meal, they would wear sandals and the streets were dusty and filthy. A lot of times there was sewage in the streets, and so someone had to wash feet. If there was a servant at the house, they would wash feet. Now, it was reserved for the lowest of the low. But when you didn't have a servant, like they didn't in the upper room when they'd gathered, then the person who was considered the lowest in society in the room was supposed to wash feet. And so nobody moved because they'd just been arguing over who's the greatest in the kingdom of heaven. And they were arguing about who was going to be the greatest, who was going to sit at Jesus' right hand, and all these things. And no one budged. No one moved. They didn't want to be considered the least of the disciples. But then Jesus got up and He changed history. He got up. And I love the passage right before He washed the disciples' feet. It says, Jesus knew that the Father had put all things under His power, and He had come from God and was returning to God. So He got up from the meal, took off His outer clothing, and wrapped a towel around His waist. After that, He poured water into a basin and began to wash His disciples' feet, drying them with the towel that was wrapped around Him. It says so that He knew who He was. He knew that He had all power that was given to Him by His Father. He knew He was the Son of God. He knew He was the greatest in the room. And He was confident in that. And I think that's really important to see, that when you really know who you are as a child of God, then you're not worried about what people think about you, and you'll serve other people. And you realize that the ground is level at the foot of the cross, and you don't compare yourself with others and think you're better than someone else. You just know that you're a child of God, and God has given you His authority to serve others. And Jesus did that as an example, and they never forgot it. And He goes on to say, do you understand what I've done for you? He asked them. You call me teacher and Lord, and rightly so, for that is what I am. Now that I am your Lord and teacher, have washed your feet, you also should wash one another's feet. I have set you an example that you should do as I have done for you. Jesus was saying, I am the Lord and the teacher. And so, you should be washing my feet. But I want to wash your feet because I want the blessing. I'm going to serve because that's where the blessing comes from. When you humble yourself and you serve others, that's where it comes from. And that was so different than anything that they had even imagined. And so He goes on to say, very truly, I tell you, no servant is greater than his master, nor is a messenger greater than the one who sent him. Now that you know these things, you will be blessed if you do them. He's saying the secret is serving. The secret is not seeing if you're going to be the greatest. It's not trying to lord it over others. It's serving. And by the way, if you're a leader, if you're a manager of people, then really you're a servant of people. The more people you lead, the more people you're to serve. And that's what it comes down to. Servant leadership. Joseph had that dream back in the Old Testament, that he was going to have his brothers would come and bow down to him, and that he was going to be a great leader one day that would save his family and all the people from famine. And he would tell his brothers about that dream. But really, Joseph didn't understand the true meaning of the dream. He thought it was to raise him up to be a great leader, but no, it was to pull him out to be a great servant, to serve his family, to serve and to save the people of Israel. That's what it was all about. And he realized that later. And God elevated him. And I think that it's so important for us to understand that when we humble ourselves, God will take care of it. God will take care of us. When we serve others, then we find fulfillment. Jesus said, you'll be blessed if you do these things. You'll be walking in the light as he is in the light. God bless you. Have a great day.